Okay. All right. So now we're going to look. You remember we did that logic test, and just to remind you, this website is atibirnbaum.netfirms.com, and it has a link to the site that I showed you before. So let's just click over there. And here's this side over here. So I can edit it, and I can view it from that link. And you've created a site like this. And here was the logic test. And now to view what's under the hood here, how did I do this experiment? So we notice it's a very simple experiment. There's really only one dependent variable of interest, which was this pull down list that the person could choose one of these answers. And so let's take a look and then break down what's there. And to take a look, if you go Command and U, you'll see the HTML that underlies the page. So here's the HTML. And now the HTML starts with HTML and head and title and slash head and body and so on. And I'm going to break it down and tell you the bare bones of what's under here. So it's really not too complicated. That's all there is to running that experiment. Notice there's a body tag and some style and a form and some other things. So we're going to go through and figure out what all these things are. Okay, let's see. Here we are back at the ATI site. And there's a picture of me from about 20 years ago. And there's Ulf sitting in the back corner, and some of the other instructors are sitting around. And here's a guy that wrote a book after he took our class 20 years ago. He's a professor at Illinois right now, I think. And these are other people that were grad students and postdocs that are now faculty members. This is a link to the NeoCities site, and hopefully you got one, and you did. Here's the skeleton site that shows what it looks like. Here's an article that's a overview of some of the techniques for running experiments. And here are some one-page handouts going over basic components of HTML. So let's get started with a bare bones web page. This page, notice it has a title that here says the title goes here. I have to, it's not all shown because I have so many other tabs. And then it says the main body, or the main text of the web page goes here. So let's look at that and see what it looks like. I'm going Command U, and that shows the bare bones web page. And I'd like for you to memorize this. So an exam question would be write out a bare bones web page. So on Friday, when the workshop students take their exam, they'll be asked to create a bare bones web page, and maybe they'll be told what the title should be. So let's just look at it. These are called tags. They're in HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a markup language that tells the browser how to display the page. So web servers, they hold the pages, and a web browser is sometimes called a client. A person who requests the page requests it through their browser by typing a URL, a Uniform Resource Locator, or an address. They type that into their browser, and the browser sends a request to the server. And the server, like server in a restaurant that brings you food when you ask for it, the browser sends a request to the server, and the server says, oh, you wanted a ham sandwich? Here it is. Or in this case, you wanted this web page? Here it is. And then your browser receives this text file. This is basically just a simple text file. And it knows that it's HTML because it starts right off by saying HTML. Now, these are the tags for a bare bones web page or HTML page. It begins with HTML and it ends with /HTML. Tags usually come in pairs, one that starts it and one that ends it. And so this instruction is telling the browser everything in between here, between the HTML and the /HTML, is a hypertext markup language page. And so I know how the browser says, I know how to display that kind of page. I just follow the rules for hypertext markup for HTML. Then the next thing is the head. And various things can go in the head. We'll see later. We can put meta tags in there, and we can put JavaScript programs, and other things can go in the head. But one of the things that goes in the head is the title. And so in this bare bones page, we have head, title. The title goes here, and /title. So whatever you type here between title and /title is the title that will appear up on the tab at the top of the page that shows the title. And the title can go inside, the title will go inside the head, and other things, as I said, could go in the head, but that's the end of the head, so we have /head. So we have head, title, then the title, then /title, then /head. Then we have a body, and the body describes what's in the main body of the web page. And so in the body, various things can go, but in this case, I just typed this text, the body, the main text of the web page goes here. This is a bare bones web page. That's all that's needed for you to communicate with the world with the web page. So what I would like for you to do is open your text editor, or you could go to NeoCities and do this. But if you're on a PC, you can open Notepad. If you're on a Mac, you could open TextEdit. I'll open TextEdit. Hopefully you set the, oops, I clicked the wrong thing. Where's my text editor? Here, TextEdit. I've already got one here. File new. So here's my file, and I've specified the preferences. I just want to make sure you've got the preferences here. Are you using the PC or using a Mac?
Mac.
Mac. Okay, so set your preferences to these. Notice that TextEdit can deal with rich text and may display rich text, or it may display your HTML as a finished web page, but we want to just look at plain text. So under Format, choose Plain Text, and then you can adjust these to values that fit on your screen nicely. I've got mine here of just 90 by 30. Just choose width and a height for your file, for your window. And then you get to choose how it's going to appear. I don't really care much about that, but under the options here, turn off checking of spelling and grammar and all of that. Get rid of anything that's smart. Let's see. I might have to see it all at the moment. That's unfortunate. Let's check our open and save. Say display HTML files as HTML code instead of formatted text. And we want Unicode UTF-8. See, I'm seeing all this stuff down at the below. I'm not able to see that down there. Let's see if I Yeah, I'm not able to see everything on the screen at the same time at the present time. Anyhow, you want to click to save those preferences. And then create an HTML page like this. HTML. And it's going to end with /HTML. And then we want to have a head. And we're going to close our head. And inside the head goes the title. And then we can have whatever our title is going to be. Whatever you want it to be. And then you have to have /title. And then after the head comes the body. And before the end of the document becomes /body. And that's a bare bones web page. And you can put, this is kind of, for some reason, it's a classic thing to say is hello world when it comes to computers. When you've done that, let's save this. And when you save it, we'll save it with a name that has no spaces in it. It'll work on your own computer, but it won't work on the web to have spaces in the file name. We're going to save this somewhere where you can remember where it is. And we're going to save it, for example, on the desktop. Save it as whatever title you want to give it. I'll give mine mypage.htm. And I recommend using HTML. You could give it an extension of HTML, but you really don't want to have a mixture of HTML and HTML because when you make links between your pages, you got to specify it exactly right. And I've also had some bad experiences with students who type HTM1, and boy, is it hard to tell the difference between the 1 and the L when you're looking at it. You can't see why it doesn't work. So it's got to be, I recommend HTM. I'm going to save mine on the desktop. Then open a new browser window. And I'm going to go for the new window here so I can see everything. And then I'm going to open file. And I go back to the desktop and I look for my page HTML. And I click open. And there it is. It says Michael's web page and hello world. So all I have to do is put that into a web server and anybody could read that. They would see the words hello world and realize that I had said that to the world. That's kind of a dumb thing to say. So maybe we want to say something more profound. We have our theory, my theory of psychology. So we can go back and edit our page. Go back here and talk about my theory. My theory can be stated in 3 premises. And here's one of the tags you can use. BR is a line break. It doesn't have a closing tag. And so now we can have premise 1. And I could write out bread is made of cyanide. And I can have a line break again, BR. Premise 2. Everything made of cyanide is good to eat. Tag for another line break. Conclusion. Bread is good to eat. I guess I only have 2 premises. I better change that. Now, to see the changes, I need to save this page. If I don't save this page, I won't see the changes that I just typed. So I'm going to save it. I have to save, and now I come and look over here, and I don't see the changes. In order to see the changes, I have to reload it, which I can go Command R, which reloaded the page, and now I see the changes that I made. So you have to save and then reload. Everything clear? Now, if we want to communicate something like this to the rest of the world, this is the source. Notice that the source is also hasn't updated. Let's try updating that. Control R. No, that's the old source. I'm going to close that. Oh, I see. I'm back to that page. I'm back on NetFirms, so I'm not. I got myself confused there. I'll go back to the window. Here's Michael's web page. We want to see the source. There's the source. You can't edit here. I'm now viewing it in the browser, not the. So don't expect that you can go back to the text editor. All right. Now let's say I want to communicate this to the rest of the world here. Instead of calling it my page, I'm going to call it my theory because I've decided what my page is about. And I'm going to visit my site at NeoCities. And I'm going to put it on you could upload different ways with FTP and by means of other file managers that might be available. But here's how it works here at NeoCities. I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And this shows what my website looks like. And notice it says new file. I'm going to click new file. And I'm going to call the new file, I'm going to call it my theory. I think I'll just call it my theory like that, .htm. I'm going to create it. And where'd it go? Well, here it is, my theory.htm. And notice I could rename it, I could delete it, or I could edit it. So I will edit it. And it created all this junk. So let's clear away all this junk. And I'm going to put in that. Notice it's got an error here sometime. Ah, there's a slash before BR, no slash for BR. Okay, so notice that this editor helps me spot what's HTML. Notice the HTML, or the word HTML is kind of in a slightly different color. So the HTML tags are showing up, and it caught my error by showing me that X. And so now I can save it. Here's the save button. It's now been saved. Now I can view it. And now you can view it. If you click, choose this URL, you can see my theory. All right, try that out. See if you can find it. So notice I placed it on the web, and now anybody who wants to read that can read it. How are we doing for time? I noticed that it's 3:53. You still have a few minutes?
Yes.
All right, then we'll continue a little bit. Well, I've lost track of where we are here. I'll go back to ATI. So that's the idea of a bare bones web page. Now let's do a web form. So some web pages have forms within them, and this was the key idea. Having a form was a key idea that led in about 1996. People began doing web experiments and surveys, began collecting data, because forms enabled us to collect data from people that they could fill out the form, they could answer questions by various means. So let's take a look at a bare bones web form. Here it says, what is your age? And you can type in something, and I'll type in my age. I'll even give it a decimal, 75.5. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but it's approximate. I click to send the thing, and it wants me to send a email provider. If my computer was configured to send an email this way, it would have sent the data by email to somebody that's not going to get it anyway. Let's take a look at that. So here we have HTML. It begins with and ends with /HTML. And it has a head, and it has a title. And the title is My First Form. And then that's the end of the title. At the end of the head, here becomes the body. Notice we have /body and /. And so here's what's new. We have a form tag that says form method equals post. And there are other methods, for example, get. Maybe we'll have time to do some examples with get and with post. An action could be, in this case, it's mail to, and notice I put you can change it to your own email and check it out and see if you can mail yourself the data. The encryption type is text, plain. And we have a hidden variable. So it says input type equals hidden. The name is 00EXP. The value is mytest123. So when the data are sent, the first variable in the data that are sent will be mytest123. So this illustrates one of the input types, which is hidden. And the hidden input type is simply a way of keeping track of things. I'll be giving other examples of what's hidden. For example, you can keep track of the date and the time and the person's IP and various other things. This then got printed in the page. What is your age? And then we have an input type equals text. Name equals 01 age. And the numbers at the beginning for the CGI script, that's a common gateway interface, it's called. It's going to be a Perl script. The Perl script is going to put the variables in the order of these leading digits. So that just means that the first thing will be this, and the second thing will be the age. Size equals 4, which means it will display a little box whose size was 4. Remember the little box? It says, what's your age? And there's a little box there. That's what an input type text does. Input type equals text will create a box. Size 4 means that the box will be 4 digits. Max length equals 6. That means somebody could have quite a large age, couldn't they? They could be 999,999 years old. If I was really collecting an age, maybe I would make the size 2 and the max length 2. Although if somebody was 101, I'd want to know, wouldn't I? So maybe make the size 2 and the max length 3. That way the worst they can get you is to say they're 999 years old. Right? Then I have an input type equals submit and value equals send the data. And what the value of a submit button is, it creates a button and the words send the data will appear on that button. And when you click the submit button, it will carry out the action, which is to mail to whatever that email address was. Now later we're gonna use an address of a Perl script, which is going to send the data there and save it on the server. So in some of the other examples, it'll be a little more complicated. Another action might just be a URL. It could be http://cnn.com. For example, we could change that to the get method. So you can experiment. One of the great things about playing with a computer is the computer won't be broken by what you type on these things. So you can try out, now that you have your NeoFitties website, you can try out changing things here and do things and see what happens, see what works and see what doesn't work. There'll be things that won't work, and things that will work. And one of the things you can do is change it from method equals post to method equals get. And you could change your action to cnn.com, and what will happen is it will send your age or whoever types that in there to CNN as if they cared about it. And it will appear right in the request sent by the server. And it will end up recorded in the log file of CNN. Whoever's age is typed in there will appear at CNN's log file. All right. I think it's 4 o'clock. Do you have more time, or should we call that a day?
Yeah. Unfortunately, call it a day.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording then, and we'll call it a day. So let's see, where is that? There we go.